Design for policy and policy design are obviously key concepts among civil servants, academics, and others engaged in the debates that bring this network together. In my brief comments, I want to ask really one question. Why not design for polity with a TY at the end, as well as design for policy with the CY? By design for polity, I mean design of the formal political system, design for processes and organizations of governance itself, such as government departments and agencies, including the core executive and parliament and electoral organizations, and the links between them, as opposed to the design of specific policies within, and which largely take as given the organizational configuration of government. Now, design of polity in this sense might sound highly political, even revolutionary. Well, it might be both of those things. But design of polity need not be seen as highly radical. It does not have to be whole system design, but can be part system or single institutional design. Think, for example, of reconfiguring government departments in ministerial reshuffles, or the devolution and House of Lords reform proposals in the Gordon Brown-led Commission on the Future of the UK, published last year. Now, design studies and design thinking have for some time embraced the idea that systems and processes, as well as artifacts and experiences, are and can be designed. But political scientists and others engaged in what I call design for polity rarely examine or explain what they mean when, as often they do, they invoke design. That, I think, is a mistake. Taking design concerns and approaches seriously holds the potential for greater open-mindedness about what democracy means or demands, questioning received models, questioning who designs and why, taking problem and solution as fluid and changeable things. Taking design seriously is a way to make democracy strange, to open up to experimental, perhaps novel ideas of democratic practice, on local scales, to be sure, but also at the national scale. If we turn from political scientists to design thinkers and practitioners, it's helpful then that the latter invoke democracy a good deal. However, when we look at prominent recent work on democracy and design, design of polity, in interesting ways, and I think for interesting reasons, is largely absent. Why is that? Often I think it's because the state or national government is framed as rather suspicious or remote, perhaps as undemocratic. Design practice embracing local communities is valued, while indirect or representative relations are suspect. The focus is on democracy as local, community-based, about ordinary people acting together in and creating new public things and public spaces, and the roles that design and designers may be able to play in that. Ezio Manzini's emphasis on democratization as action in, I quote, small local open communities is one example. Carl DiSalvo's similar emphasis on local action and what he calls civics is another. Governments are sometimes depicted as conniving in undemocratic and exploitative global practices. So taking micro steps locally with people is design's democratic challenge or task. Now, to that trend, I would say democracy, action, and new publics, yes. At local scales, yes, absolutely. But I dispute whether that focus should exclude practice at larger scales, including the national governmental scale. Design writers emphasize the creation of new publics through design-inspired action and practice. That's great. But the polis is also a public. The state and the polity are also publics, or at least they should be. Democracy as practice, yes, that too is great, but all institutions, including national government ones, consist of practices. Democratizing practices within them, along with democratizing their links to local action and associations, can be a design focus. So the valued elements and aspirations of design practice: openness, participation, imagination, creating innovative solutions, making common new worlds as well as things, design as shared inquiry and knowledge, can be elements of polity at large scales as well as smaller scales. Now, there's no doubt that creative and participative design processes can be described as democratic. We've just been hearing about that. It's a mode of imaginative collective action, of experimental doing as well as making, ideally anyway. But democracy, including a democratic polity, can also be a product of design. It is already designed and can be redesigned. So democracy plus design is not a matter of either or, either local or nation state, either process or product. It can be both and, both participative and representative, local and supralocal, proximate and non-proximate, process and product. And small scale does not match exclusively with face-to-face participatory design. You can have the latter at larger national scales. So citizens' assemblies' crucial role in Ireland's recent dealing with constitutional issues such as abortion may be a good example. And design for democratic polity does not need to be wholly democratically arranged or enacted itself. Designing for democracy, the product, and designing democratically, the process, are different things that may or may not be pursued together. By the same token, expertise and representation are not anti-democratic, and they can be compatible with participatory or co-design, arguably. Now, of course, there is much to criticize about the lack of democracy in existing liberal or representative democracies. No doubt each country or system we normally call democracy offends against democratic ideals in both unique and in shared ways. Two complicated factors in particular here, I think, need to be addressed. The first I think of as democracy's writ, as in WRIT, or the forms of power and influence that lie beyond democratic accountability, by design or otherwise. And secondly, the extent and impact of, and forgive me for this one, ventriloquism, where politician and party voices substitute for the people or the polis, resulting in a kind of rule instead of the people, rather than rule by or for the people. To conclude, design for polity involves the design or redesign, systemic or institutional, of practices of representative democracy. Design for polity is compatible with design for policy. The ways in which design studies and design theory address democracy need to embrace representative and indirect forms of democracy. Disciplines and practitioners engaged in design or redesign of representative and indirect democratic processes or systems need to embrace, certainly much more fully, design approaches. And making these moves is compatible with participatory design and co-design, and with continued action at the local, civic, and community scale. Representative and participative democracy are compatible. As the political scientist David Plotke once wrote, the opposite of representation is not participation. The opposite of representation is exclusion. Thanks very much.